No worries. Thanks for having me, guys. My name's Chris, and I work with the City of Casey. I've worked here for about 4 years, and I work as a Smart City Project Officer. When people ask me what I do for a living, I often just tell them I'm a project manager because no one really knows what a smart city is. So we're going to talk a little bit today about what a smart city is, what that means in real terms, the use of data in building a better city, and sort of give you some practical examples of what we're doing at the moment. Just a heads up before I get too far in, though, I do have a slideshow in front of me, so I can't see if you guys raise your hands or anything in the thing in the chat or anything. So, Bita, if you just want to call out anyone who might have a question and stop me
Definitely.
as we go through, and we'll go through and answer those as we go. Feel free to
Sure.
keep it pretty informal, guys. If you do just want to shout out or whatever, then I'm more than happy to answer questions as we go through. And if you need me to go over anything, please feel free. Before we get too far in, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners, Casey's Aboriginal communities, and pay respect to their culture and their elders, past, present, and emerging. We recognise Aboriginal people as Australia's first people and the traditional owners and custodians on the land of which we work and live. And in this acknowledgement, it's also worth noting that the First Nations people of this land were using cues and data about the land to manage their way of life and how they maintain the land for many thousands of years before we arrived. So my job has existed for a very long time, but they didn't have the luxury of all of the technical data storage and collection devices that I have. So got to pay respect to that. So what is a smart city? Well, if you consult our strategic document, it'll tell you that a smart city uses data, digital technology, and innovation to improve decision-making, enhance services, and deliver better social, environmental, and economic outcomes for the Casey community. I would say half of my job is convincing people to use data when we're spending large amounts of money, and the other half of my job is actually collecting that data. I think a lot of people think that they use data or they like the concept of data, but I think the truth is probably that people like data when it backs up what they want to spend money on. I like data because data is objective. We don't have to like data, but the data will tell us the facts of a story. It's not biased, so long as we understand how to use it. So today I'm going to walk you through a scenario of how the City of Casey uses the Smart City team and how we go about helping people use that data and collect it. So let's say the City of Casey wants to invest $3 million. So the executive team has said, $3 million, guys, raise of hands, who wants $3 million? And we have someone in the parks department who says, oh, we've got this park in this disadvantaged neighborhood. We really think investing $3 million in this park is going to really revitalize that community. What a great investment of money. Sounds good. Cool. That's a very legitimate use for $3 million. We have someone who manages our sports teams and they say, geez, our sports clubs are they're getting a bit long in the tooth. They could really use a refresh. They're older buildings. They're expensive for the teams to maintain and run. They're not very energy efficient. So maybe we can look at renovating the sports clubs with that $3 million. Also, a very valid use. We have people who use all of these sports clubs every week. So maybe we can invest the $3 million there. We have a third person who manages a public pool and water slide park, Casey Race, and they say, geez, this facility is 20 years old and this bespoke, highly specific pumping equipment that we've got in here is getting a bit long in the tooth as well. So maybe we should be looking at replacing our very expensive pump equipment, which, by the way, $3 million, be lucky to get you a pump these days, but play with me. And they said, so we've got three cases here, but we've only got $3 million to spend. So how do we work out which is the best way to spend the money? So one solution might be that we ask the community. We'll just ask the community. They're the ones that are giving you the money. They're the ratepayers. They're the taxpayers. Ask the community where they would want the money spent. And this is a good strategy, and we do ask the community. But do you want to be asked every time we improve something in your local area, like, hey, do you think there's a park over there that you'd like done, or what do you think about redoing the potholes in that street? It can be very difficult for the community to contextualize the importance of one job over another, and funding could just go to the loudest minority. There could just be a group who's really passionate about building a park, and they're just like, build our park, build our park. And the rest of the community actually doesn't get a say because they were looking somewhere else when all of that was happening. So a park gets built, we spend the $3 million, but do we really get the best value for the community out of it? The second strategy might be like, okay, well, if the community doesn't know, well, surely council knows. Council can just ask its facility managers to go and create a business case and plead their case to the executive team, and we can just decide how to spend the money. It's simple. But that's not always the best way either, because then you're sort of relying on how well someone can deliver a sales pitch, or how nicely they can put together some slides. You guys will notice some very heavy AI influence on these slides, by the way. Work smarter, not harder, am I right? And but we do ask the facility owners to put together a business case, but we ask them to put their business case together using data, using heaps and heaps of data. And it is a requirement of all of the business cases that come through that they base their argument for justifying that spend of taxpayer money using some data to back it up. So what does that look like? Well, the first team that's going to come and approach us is probably going to be the parks team. They're very proactive. And they're going to say, well, we want to understand how many people use our parks. And they're going to ask for people counters. You guys might see what look like security cameras all around the place. You'll see them in buildings. You'll see them in parks. You'll see them all sorts of places. Often, you're not actually being surveilled, at least not in the traditional sense. Are people counters? They do look like cameras, and they do require a camera to work, but they are not recording images or video or audio or anything like that. They are feeding a live feed of frames into a GPU, and that GPU is asking how many people are in that frame. How many? What age are those people? Are there any cars? Are there any bikes? Are there any dogs? We can look for any number of variables that might be associated with the foot traffic moving through a certain area. It's all anonymous. A lot of people jump to things like facial recognition, or like, am I being tracked? I don't have the time or desire to do that. And in all levels of government that I've dealt with, I've never known anyone to be even remotely interested in turning that technology on. But we are interested in how many people, how many cars, how long did they stay, how long did they hang around for? We might also look at things like public toilets that are in the area. How often a public toilet is used can give us information about things like gender demographics. So is this place used by both men and women? It will give us an idea of how long people are staying. If this is somewhere that people are just moving through, just walking through, it's a transient space, then we'll be looking at low bathroom counts, because people don't tend to stop when they're traveling through a space. But if they're staying, then you'll see higher bathroom visitation in those spaces. We can also look at things like environmental sensors. So have you ever been to a park and you've thought, geez, this isn't a really nice place to be? Like, it's kind of muggy and it's a bit hot, and why does it just feel sticky here? And there's a whole bunch of reasons that can occur, but if a place isn't really nice to be, then you kind of probably won't go there very often. So we will set up sensors that measure things like air quality, temperature, tree canopy coverage, ground moisture. And that can also help with things like automated watering. Do we need to install automated irrigation in this area, so that we don't need to consider watering the gardens, and we can still get better vegetation, things like that. So with the parks done, we're going to get the sports clubs team to engage us. And again, they're going to be interested in things like door counters. So how many people do these clubs actually attract every week? I mean, if these are clubs that have 10 members and we're doing this for 10 people in the community, then it's probably not a great distribution of wealth to the broader community. We can also do things that track mobile phones as a proxy for a human. It doesn't record any of your mobile phone data, but your phone is constantly sending out a ping saying, are you a tower? Are you a tower? Are you a tower? And our sensor goes, I'm a tower. And it exchanges a MAC address really quickly. And we can understand how many people have walked past by proxy of their mobile phone being in their pocket. So this can be really good to get how many people inhabit a larger area, say up to 50, 100 meters sort of diameter. And again, very anonymous, very private. Privacy is the number one thing that we sort of value in all of the measurements that we take of these spaces. But outside of club hours, how many people actually are approaching this building and sitting outside it and using the facilities around it, like the soccer fields or the, that kind of space? So we can get that kind of information really easily. And something that we've moved into more recently is tracking the electricity usage of buildings as well, and energy usage in general. And this can be understanding how much energy the BMS uses, the building management system, which controls things like the lights and the heating and the cooling and all of that kind of stuff, through to how much solar is being produced, how much is being exported versus stored or used on site. If we do have battery storage at the site, is it sufficient storage to run the building? Is there a benefit to us having battery storage at a new facility potentially? And for buildings that are less efficient, is there going to be gains if we improve the efficiency through installing things like insulation or improving some of the weathering attributes of that building? So there's a lot that we can tell from just monitoring the energy consumption. And when we are doing that consistently between buildings, we can start to compare one building to another and use a defined metric to understand how efficient a building is compared to other buildings in its class. Finally, we're going to speak to the Aquatic Centre team, and they're going to ask us about things like pump maintenance. So pump maintenance, there's a couple of ways we can do that. Certain large plant equipment will have a certain spec that it will operate within, and we can measure that with things like vibration sensors. So if a pump starts vibrating too much, we know that maybe there's something in there that's malfunctioning and it's on its way out. Maybe there's a part that needs replacing. We can also look at the amount of energy, once again, that's consuming as a piece of plant equipment, like that individual piece of equipment, compared to what the manufacturer says it's supposed to consume. And if we track that over time, then we can, again, start to tell when those inefficiencies of requiring maintenance are reducing, causing the machine to work harder, causing premature replacement. Specifically looking at pumps, and not just pool pumps, we do this for all water sources that we are pumping. So maybe if we're using it for irrigation, maybe if we're using it for water efficient urban design, then so long as it's passing through a pump, we can start measuring things like the filtering efficiency. So again, if the pump's not pumping as hard as it should pump, is it filtering as efficiently as it needs to filter? And if it's not, then it's obviously a problem. And we also have things like flow rate sensors. So again, when you're pushing water up to a certain height, say to the top of a water slide, you require a certain amount of pumping pressure to be able to do that. And to run a water slide safely, there's a certain amount of water that needs to flow over that water slide in order to make it safe so you don't get stuck halfway down it. So measuring the flow rate to the top of that pump can, that highest point can tell us whether the pump is capable of still delivering the amount of flow through that we need. So when we combine all of these, we can get a really accurate picture of what's the actual state of that pumping equipment and how much time does it still have. So we've got three really good business cases here, and now we've got them backed up with environmental data, efficiency data, patronage data, water quality data, efficiency data, and we can start to make some decisions about which is going to be the most cost-effective or the most the most valuable way of distributing those community funds to make sure that the most people get the benefit. So in this instance, maybe for the park, we found that it's actually going to be too hot and a bit average there to build a playground. And we've seen this around some playgrounds actually kind of recently. Over the last summer, we did have some complaints from people whose children actually received burns from playground equipment because it was just too hot in the sun. Like the old adage of the slippery slide that's too hot to use in the middle of summer. I think some parents maybe forget about that when they take their kid to the park, and it's just it kind of removes the function of that play equipment. So rather than do that, let's condition this land and actually make it better for future use. So tree and shrub planting can help improve the aspiration of that area, and increase the canopy coverage, and we can start to get much better outcomes for our open space. And as that becomes a nicer place to be, then in 5 years' time, we might revisit that again, and we might look at another round of funding to reestablish a park in there. For the sports clubs, maybe we can look at some smaller upgrades. So we can maybe look at making the building a little more efficient, but it's probably not useful for us to spend $3 million on those clubs, because we know that the data has shown us that maybe we're not getting good patronage outside of club days. So yes, the people in the sports clubs use them, but actually outside of that, the spaces don't really get used. So yes, we could spend $3 million there and spend $3 million anywhere. But does it benefit the most people in the community? Probably not. But with our pump, we can look at a high risk of failure. We can look at potential health issues if it's not filtering correctly, safety issues if we can't get kids down that park. And also, we can see that 40,000 visitors per week are attending that pool. That's a lot of people. So the decision in this case would be we're going to keep the pool running and fund the aquatic centre. Before I move on to some practical examples of what we do, does anyone have any questions about what we do in smart cities, or the example that I've just put out there?
I have one question, Chris, and we will wait if anyone from the class you would like to add the chat, or you can just turn on your audio. I guess in terms of some of these decisions, which that's very great that we see how the data is going to, derive these smart solutions. So are we I think in some cases for the smart cities, especially in Australia, where we are going to the lands that we have a consideration for the indigenous heritage
Mm-hmm.
properties, is there any example of that to be considered to make a best decision, I guess? Do we have any consultation or any data collected from the indigenous people who just
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just yeah, so this is if you have any example, that would be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So we work with some of the elders. In fact, Doveton has the largest, the highest Indigenous Australian population in all of Melbourne. When Doveton is just to the sort of northwest of city of Casey. And we work with elders there when we're consulting on projects that are in areas of cultural significance for people like that. We also have people that we employ specifically to liaise with local elders and Indigenous communities in order to make sure that we are having a voice from that community in the work we do. And not just the Indigenous communities, we have representation for LGBT people with disabilities. In fact, for people with disabilities, we just finished creating a new AI model which the people counters can use to detect not just like your traditional wheelchair, which most of the AI models are trained on, like as in if you think two bicycle wheels on the side of a chair, but more non-standard mobility aids. So things like the mobile electric beds that basically sort of fold out, and
Mm.
previously those things weren't able to be detected by AI models. But yeah, we've recently deployed a new model which is getting really good results. So it's detecting things like walking frames, mobility scooters, all that kind of stuff as well. So
Yeah.
it's actually a really good point, because if you work for IBM, right?
Mhm.
They have a core demographic of people that they need to design their product for. They can make assumptions about the kind of person who will be buying their product, be that gender, be that race, be that a level of technical skill or knowledge or what have you. When you work at City of Casey or any local government for that matter, you're designing for everyone. Like your demographic is every single person. So yeah, you have to consult everyone. You have to get
Mm.
representation from wherever you can.
Beautiful. Thank you. That was
Thank you.
interesting to hear. Yeah.
Do we have any others?
Not at this point. I don't see any
All good.
questions in the chat. Yes.
All good. Well, let me go through a couple of projects that we're putting online at the moment, and you guys can get an example of some real sort of boots on the ground work that we do here. Um, Bita, you can maybe help me out with the polling on this one. Which of these sites do you guys think is going to be hotter? Do you think it's the one on the left or the one on the right? So the one on the left, we're looking at a sort of medium density urban area. So we've got some two-story houses that run three sides of this park, some bushland on the far side. The specific location is this bench, which is on top of some concrete next to some pine bark. Not a lot of tree coverage in the area, but we've got a bit of grass there. On the right-hand side, we're looking at a seat, which again is on some concrete in front of a waterway. We've got some reeds there it's probably transpiring a bit of the water there. And again, we're otherwise on a fairly grassy, uncovered sort of area. Does anyone want to pitch in and tell me which one you guys think would be hotter in the middle of a nice hot summer day?
We can add our response in the chat. I go with the left one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the chat is also following the left one.
Okay. Do we have any indication on how much hotter do you think the left would be? Like 1 degree, 5 degrees, 10 degrees?
Mm, is there any waterway close to that area for the left
Uh,
one?
there is water greater than 100 meters away.
Uh-huh. Mm, maybe 10 degrees.
10 degrees? What if I told you that these spots were actually within a few hundred meters of each other? So these are two locations that we're currently monitoring among 48 others in a project that we are calling Heatscape. Heatscape is a citywide urban heat intelligence program. So we're looking at taking microclimate data, the kind of microclimate conditions that you would experience as someone in our community, not just like we set up a few weather stations in places where people don't exist. These are real locations that we have designed designed the city for the community to inhabit. So when we design a community, we are giving you we are allowing access to spaces that the community want to use. So whether that's because we've put some play equipment there, we've put a seat there, we've set up some picnic tables, we are implicitly saying, come to this space and use that area. But do we actually know if these areas are nice to be in or inhabitable? And do these areas actually work with spaces that the community want to be in? So what we're trying to do is build a defensible experiment, a defensible data set of microclimate data from 50 locations across City of Casey. And when I say this is experiment first, not dashboard first, what we're looking to do, or what we have done, is we've captured about 20 micro, what's the word I'm looking for, metadata criteria for each sensor. So each sensor, we've recorded things like its exact geolocation, of course, but we've also captured whether it's on top of a hard surface or a grassy surface, whether there's a shade structure present, whether there's tree canopy present, how close it is to water, how close it is to maybe something that's heat emitting like play equipment or a street. What do people use the space for? Is it space that's accessible during the daytime or the evening? Those kinds of criteria of metadata. We are in the middle of building a citizen science portal for this, and I'll put a link to our open data platform at the end of this presentation. And if you guys are interested in data, please feel free to jump in and have a look. But we'll be putting a citizen science portal in there, and we're also going to be doing some professional research, probably with yourselves, if I'm being honest. We'll probably be speaking to a few of the Swinburne classes to see if they want to weigh in on finding us some answers to some research questions relating to urban heat. What are we trying to solve for? Oh my goodness, urban heat affects everything. There are places that are actively worse to live in because they're hot. And I'm going to show you some examples. We've only had these sensors out for about a month now, but I'm going to show you some examples of some dramatic heat differences that you might not expect within a very close proximity to other areas and spaces where we have designed a space for one thing, and maybe it's not super great for us to be using that space for that thing. Maybe we need to make some business decisions about that. But here you can see a bunch of teams that we've got: sustainability, city design and construction, open space, community facilities planning. All of these areas and stakeholders within council care about urban heat. It's probably one of the biggest challenges that we tackle as a council, and you would be shocked at how little data most councils have on this. Yeah, how does it work? What you're looking at here is a thermometer. It's just a little innocuous white box, and we are placing these across 50 pre-selected areas in the city. Some of them are very close to one another, some of them are very far away from each other, some of them are next to waterways, some are in parks. You get the idea. And the idea is to capture data for up to 5 years. So they have they say it's a 10-year battery on them. We'll be lucky if they last 5 years. They never last that long. But when we first launched this experiment, we had a bunch of people ask, why don't you just get one of those LiDAR flyovers that looks at the infrared heat of the whole city and you can just see the whole city? It's a different kind of data. What these sensors will tell us is how quickly an area heats up, how long does it take to cool back down. We can start looking at things like dew point in certain areas because they measure humidity as well. We can start looking at all sorts of areas around, it's maybe not be remarkably hot in that area, but it's very moist, then you probably don't want to be there for too long. And we're going to do some periodic inquiries. So once we've got about 12 months of data, we'll probably be speaking to Bita next year and seeing if we can utilize some of the expertise in our class to help us answer some questions. But if you guys are keen, then once we launch a citizen science portal, there's nothing stopping you guys from getting on there and answering questions yourself if you really want to.
This is very interesting, Chris, because before you bring this concern, I personally didn't think that this could be one of the difficulty in the urban cities because of this heat,
Yeah.
extreme heat. And yeah, now I'm thinking about it. So there are a lot of decisions is going to be impacted by this. And yeah, what would
Mm-hmm.
be the solution? It's an interesting project.
So City of Casey is about 400 square kilometres. We're one of the largest by land size municipalities in Victoria, or at least in metropolitan Victoria. And we are about half full of development at the moment. So half of us is fields and nothing, and the other half is dense urban development. And that is rapidly growing every year. We are the fastest growing, and in I think it's the next 5 years, Clyde North is going to be the biggest suburb in Australia by population. We're expecting to be over 500,000 people by the time we're full. And yeah, we're looking at something like 90,000 houses over the next 5 years. So it's a huge amount of development that's going in. So little changes, things like are we installing, how much are we investing in installing passive curbside irrigation so that we get better tree canopy coverage? Are we, do we allow permits for houses with black roofs? Or do we want white roofs? How much? A recent decision that was just made, in fact, leads me to my next slide. Let's look at the temperature difference over 175 meters. So I don't know how big this is for you guys, but this is 173.3 meters. This field on the left is grass. This field on the right is AstroTurf. People like AstroTurf. Apparently it's good for futsal. More commonly, I see people walk their dogs on it. The ambient air temperature when I took this reading was 28.2 degrees. The grass field, 27.9. See, that's in check. Synthetic field, 36.8. We're looking at almost a 10-degree swing between 175 meters. If you're playing on the field on the right, you're at a distinct disadvantage to if you're playing on the field on the left, just because it's so much hotter there. And do you think this is linear? Do you think that 28.2 to 36, what about when that's 38.2? What do you think the synthetic field is then? I don't know, but I probably don't want to be on there. I probably don't want to be putting my dog on there either. So that's a huge change. City of Casey recently, if you've been watching in the media, we recently banned the use of AstroTurf in new developments. So synthetic grass is not something that you can use in new developments in Casey anymore. And aside from microplastics and some of the other terrible things that AstroTurf produces, the urban heat effect is astronomical. That is crazy. I actually have some out the back of my house, and I can stand on the concrete some days, but if I put a foot on that synthetic grass, it will just absolutely cook you. So that's a very early insight that we've gotten out of some of the sensors. This second sensor that I've got here, so we're in Lynbrook Community Centre. So here you can see we've got some very well established, nice shady gum trees all the way up and down the street. So we've got some actually pretty good canopy coverage in this area. We are right next to a thick black tarmac, car park, but we are under shade. And as you can see at the back, we've got some nice AstroTurf. You'll notice this is a reoccurring theme next to some children's play equipment. So what's the intention of this area? What are we saying we want people to use this area for? Well, you can come and use the community center. Maybe you're doing a pottery class or, I don't know, whatever, yoga. And you say to your kid, hey, just go out the back. On a 27.9 degree day, it was 38.3 degrees, specifically under this table. It's in this photo here. 38.3 right next to that play equipment. Do you want your kid playing in 38.3 degrees when, it's not that hot of a day? Ooh, maybe we shouldn't be using that for that purpose. So again, very early data, we need more data to back this up, and we need to look at trends over time. But already you can start to see why this urban heat data is important for council to use.
And do we have any evidence of what has been, like I'm just thinking of what is the area covered, like let's say 50 years ago, or I don't know how, like historically, how old is the land and what was the land covered by?
Very good question. So this used to be more dense bushland area, so bushland and scrub. Just down the road is Banjo Patterson Park, and if you go down there, it's absolutely stunning. If you get to visit Banjo Patterson Park, it's just off Lynbrook Station if you're looking for a nice weekend spot to go. But beautiful giant gum trees, beautiful lake down there. And we're improving the reception there. We do have a heat sensor in Banjo Patterson Park as well, but we just need to install a transmitter at this site to get it. But we're so it used to be bushland. Most of Casey used to be farmland, so open plains, and especially in the south, which is being developed more heavily now. We that farmland was probably not the best for heat conditions as farmland. um,
Because
so yeah,
I'm thinking about the diversity of the other microorganisms and the plants and the animals, and beside
mm,
us as human, so that heat impact all these lives around the kind of, if you look at the bigger picture, like an ecosystem. So yeah, so just thinking about the diversity, or the how resistant the plants or the animals are living there. So yeah, that's something to
really good
also
insight. Yeah, we
consider.
do
Yeah.
actually have a lot of native animal corridors
Mm,
through this space as well. It is something that the Lynbrook Residents Association very proud of, is seeing some of the wildlife that's in there. So yeah, that's a good call out. Yeah, we've got these established trees there, but also if it's 40 degrees, do you want to
mm,
be a possum in a tree? I don't know,
mm.
man. I can also tell you that the air conditioning in that building can't keep up with the amount of heat that is produced on a hot day from that car park. So,
Mm,
um, yeah, the challenges are real. Um, last specific example I'll give you. This one was surprising to me because I thought it would be really hot, but it's actually cooler than ambient temperature. This is the highest point in Casey. It's called Bayview Park. It used to be a landfill site. If any of you are familiar with Ash Wednesday, many years ago, terrible fires. It was a landfill site where all of the Ash Wednesday wreckage was dumped into, and it ended up shortening the lifespan of this by 5 years. We do have some really interesting tech in here, which is extracting the gases out of that former landfill site and burning them off, so that they don't cause residents issues. And there used to be an electric generation unit sort of thing there. There's not enough gas in the land anymore for us to generate electricity off it, so we've just got to burn off the last skerricks of it. But yeah, really interesting stuff that's happening on this site, aside from urban heat. But at the highest point in Casey, the altitude up there, even though we're not under a whole lot of tree cover, you can see there's a bit, but not a ton. But it's actually a really nice place to be on a hot day. So again, if you're ever looking for a fitness challenge, I highly recommend coming to Bayview Park and climbing the 1,001 steps. Oh, also worth noting, the nearest development site, 250 meters away. So when we leave the land like it is, it's almost like it's a little bit cooler. It's a little bit nice of a place to be. Who knew? The last cool thing that we're doing, speaking of local wildlife, um, we have one of the largest colonies of grey-hooded flying foxes in Victoria. Again, this is in Doveton in Myuna wetlands. And if you ever visit Myuna Farm, which again, highly recommend, it's a cool place to come, pat some animals. If you continue all the way down the back of Myuna Farm, then you will eventually stumble across this bat colony. And if I was to tell you there was 100,000 bats there, I would be underselling it. I was absolutely amazed when I went there during the day, and they're all just hanging from the trees, just being bats. It's pretty cool. So we're rigging these same temperature and humidity sensors up in this location. And when they detect that the temperature goes over a certain threshold, I think it might actually be 35 degrees, it's going to turn on a sprinkler irrigation system. So we're just building the irrigation system at the moment, and it's going to provide some cool relief for those bats. Once it exceeds a certain temperature, we have had mass events of bats basically dropping out of trees dead, which is not good. So this is a conservation effort. It's going to be interesting. No one's actually done this before. I'm curious to see how well it works, and yeah, I think there's going to be some problem solving around things like insulating pipes, because if you've ever turned the cold water on a hot day and it comes out, it's like 50 degrees. I don't know if we should be spraying bats with 50-degree water until it cools down. But anyway, there's a few kinks to get around. But while we're measuring microclimate, we're actually putting it to some good use as well in terms of preserving the bat colony that we've got there. So we're aiming to have all of the irrigation installed by the next hot season, fingers crossed. And we've got some guys working on that now. So some really fun stuff that's coming out of that research. In terms of the future, look, the next 12 months for this urban heat data is going to be launching that citizen science portal, completing some QAs on that. So like I said, we want a really defensible set of data on there that universities and research organizations can use to perform urban heat research and use it as a proxy for their own environments. And we're going to be submitting some data in the next 12 months for a lucky local university to have a play with and get their hands on. At 24 months, we're going to be looking at whether we want to combine this data with things like flyovers or satellite data. And also saying, do we have enough environmental conditions monitored? Do we want to add more sensors to this? And over 36 months, we'll probably look at getting a second university study done, potentially using some of that satellite and flyover data. And at 36 months, we'll probably review the continuation of the program based on how many of the sensors survived. If we've got 40 out of 50, that's great. If we've got 10 out of 50, that's probably not as good. And we'll be looking at publishing some of our findings on that open data citizen science portal for people to review. And speaking of Citizen Science Portal, I've got some helpful links on this page that you guys might value. So the first one is our Open Data Portal. We release data about all facets of Casey that we can think to. So we've got everything on there from lists of addresses, lists of different kind of zones that we've got, where all of our public toilets are located, where all of our park benches are located, literally any asset that you can imagine we've got in there. Bus routes, bus stops, street lights, whatever, it's all in there. But more recently, we've put things, in fact, one of Bita's students last year helped us assemble a data set of 4G and 5G mobile phone data, so signal strength throughout the city of Casey. And that work's been very acclaimed. We were just published in a journal for that. So we try and put as much data as we can in there to improve transparency with community about, to say, one, we know about the challenges, and two, here's what we're doing about them. And that's a project that is ongoing, and we are working to be as transparent as we can with the community. If you're interested about smart cities in general, that second link is just to our smart city page, which includes our smart city strategy. We've just released a new strategy up until 2029. So if you'd like to know what we're doing over the next few years, then please feel free to jump on. Third link there is actually the cellular mapping data. So if you're interested in the work that Emerson did with us last year and you'd like to see how that came together, feel free to go and have a look at that. And the last link on there is an award that we won last year. So this IoT, Internet of Things technology that we put out everywhere, we actually have a test bed at Casey Fields, and that is set up to get the best that we can out of all of our IoT equipment. And last year we were recognized as having one of the most sophisticated test beds in Victoria. So if you guys are interested in IoT technology, how we measure things or what have you, then feel free to check out our award submission. Otherwise, guys, that's sort of all I planned. I was hoping that I'd get up to an hour, but we're up to 47.
That's
so
fine. That's fine. You save 10 minutes of time. But I guess that brings us, thank you so much, Chris. That brings us a lot of concern or reflection on the topics that we can work, because here in the School of Science, Computing Science, not only we value the data and we can work with the data. I'm sitting with the internship students and I can see how they come with them, some simulation projects, some of these some of the project with the automations, the AI driven solutions. I'm also interested to see how other places are coming with alternative solution to this type of the issues that you raised here. So because we can think of different the lens of us in biotechnology and the with the lens of the environmental science. And of course, we have a unit next semester. Maybe this is really related to what we are doing with the smart cities and the decision we made for the smart cities. So yeah, I think this is something that your case studies and your examples is took us to the more in-depth knowledge. Every one of us in the unit, I invite you to just think of what could be a solution. And I'm interested to know, do you know by any chance what are the because I'm thinking around the globe we have this type of like for example in Dubai, then some of the cities they are located in the area that that's the nature of the environment and how they come with making the using the technology to make it livable for everyone, including us as a human. So yeah, that's something which is very interesting to be review.
A couple of links that I'll give you for that is
Mm,
the first one I'll just dump in the chat. It's for City of Melbourne's Heat Lab. And Heat Lab, they're probably the people doing it the best in Australia at the moment. And
mm,
they do an amazing job of it. If you are interested in urban heat, then definitely check out the research they're doing there because it's second to none. There is also another global one that's coming around. I think this one's based out of Europe, and it's called the Cool Cities Lab, and they are looking at creating a global tool for cities to be able to understand their urban heat presence and some of the challenges that they might be having, and they're doing that using satellite imagery. So a couple of really interesting things to look at there if you guys are interested in understanding a little bit more about urban heat efforts globally.
yeah, I can see that there would be a combination of this engineering, constructional engineers, and environmental science and computing science all together. And that's the beauty of how we work together to make a inclusive decision. So thank you so much again, Chris. Do we
No,
have
that's all
any
right.
question? Now we have this, Nicholas or Joel. Do we have Jasmine? If we don't,
Cool.
then we can come to the end of this lecture. Thank you so much for sharing all of this, real case studies and helping us to reflect more on that. And looking forward to work with you for internship positions and, of course, our guest lecturing in these units. Thank you so much, Chris.
No worries. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.
Thank, thank you.